I'm really excited to be here. I want to quickly just take some time and share a couple of case studies and examples of things that we've done to rethink the open office. We've gone through how important the role of the people in this room is. It's becoming increasingly more and more a part of the conversations. I went through this article, it was very interesting. I highlighted, many areas that our workplaces are actually touching at the top of, every C-suite's kind of day-to-day activity and what things that they worry about, from making space for reflection all the way through to retaining top talent. It's really a phenomenal transformation of even the way companies look at real estate and look at workplaces. And with the workplace taking such a huge part of the transformation and strategic drive of companies, it's also interesting to look at how, at the same time, work is changing. And what was more tactical types of work and tactical types of activities is now becoming much more adaptive, much more integrated. And with all that, it's shocking. Why are places with all that change kind of happening? You have the attention of the C-suite, and you have all this work that's happening and it's changing every day. You have disruption in the different companies, and they all need to reinvent. Why are workplaces still looking so similar? How come I can go to one company and then go to another company and it almost feels like a logo in many cases is just swapped? Shouldn't the workplaces really reflect some of the activities that are unique to that organization? And so we started to think a little about how did we even get here? And is this whole open office thing really a new phenomena that's troubling all of us? And it's not. It's like from the 1700s. I'm not gonna go too deep here. 1700s, we had offices, we had places like this. That's the open office. This is tactical work though. It's like typing, print press, writing, things like that. But it's an open office. And then in the 30s, we had really cool things happen. We had like the future of work. And an amazing example with the Johnson Wax building and how a new way of working could be introduced, and then a bunch of bad stuff happened in the world, and we got distracted for a bit, and we came back around the 1960s thinking about corporations and office spaces again. We started looking at this thing called Burolandschaft, and it was really interesting about landscape of work and how you can take really confined and enclosed spaces and move it over to the landscape of work. You've all studied this, right? This is really interesting, cool stuff. And open plan is good. Yeah, it's super good. Yeah, but is it? And I think a lot of companies are really trying to understand again what's going on. It's so distracting. It's got all these downsides to it. And the reason is we came from a place where, Frank Lloyd Wright made this beautiful thing in the 1930s. How did we end up with something that was not so good anymore? And it comes to this, the process of scaling, the process of repetition. It became, we replicated, we optimized, we squeezed more people in, we wanted to go efficient. And the office landscape kind of lost some of its substance. Those details that actually grounded people in their places of work were diluted and lost. And it became just a bunch of places where people showed up. And so we look at today, and today is a very different day. The workplace has a different role. And so today offices need to really look at being health positive, not just okay. We came from a world where we accepted that it was all right to have bad things at work. The lighting's not good and my chair hurts my back. And people sometimes smoke in the office, but that's okay, that's work. That's life. And then we got smarter and we said, no, that's not acceptable at all. We need to be better than that. And so we got to a point where it was not bad for you. And what we're trying to push forward even deeper is to come up with an environment that's actually better for you to be there than to not be there. That's health positive. And so we're trying to incorporate these things because it's important. Health positivity, values alignment, cultural alignment, tools, the space itself, how you deliver on the brand promise, not only to your clients to get more customers, but internally to get your own people on board. These are all things that are extremely valuable and important for today's workplace. And so I want to introduce to you an idea of behavior-based design. It's something that we felt like we coined, but the more people I talk to and the more organizations I talk to, it's almost like they've been doing parts of this in some way, shape, or form, or wanting the full thing. Well, let's hear it. Behavior-based design is really built around a design process that focuses on behaviors that enable your people to do their life's best work. We have to think to ourselves, it's one thing to identify the activity, but what are the behaviors that can help us create the right result? Yesterday we heard about nudge. What are the ways that we can create spaces and environments that nudge us into the right behavior? I sometimes think about going to a smorgasbord, a buffet. I'm not gonna pick the broccoli, even though it's really good for me. I wanna go for the things that I'm used to, the things that are comfortable. And so oftentimes we see new open office plans, ABW workspaces, they're being used in the old way, but in a new setting, which is almost worse than just doing it the old way from the get-go. The whole model is structured around business goals, identifying the behaviors that allow the team members to achieve those business goals, and then ultimately into design and implementation strategies, which is where I live, right? I live in the world where we can take those business goals and pull them through ultimately into something really tangible that people can see, feel, touch and experience. And so I want to just take you through a few examples so that we can really crystallize this concept of behavior-based design. And so in a typical approach, design is asking things like, where are people working? How do they do their job? We usually identify an activity. The behavior-based design questioning would be something like, why are people doing these activities? Where is their sense of purpose coming from? Do they connect to the outcome of their work? Are they motivated by the outcome of that work? What is the desired outcome of that work? What does success even look like when you're talking about an engineer and a sales team member working together? And so the reason we do this type of thing is because unfortunately the first set of questions really led to that diluted, replicate, optimize, squeeze, and efficiency. And it created a kit of parts. And so a kit of parts is laid out and hopefully people will use it, but it's not working. And I want to take you through a little bit more. In the past when we looked at the open office, it was really about where we place the value. And I think I've heard sufficiently throughout this conference that the value is being placed on something much, much higher now. Where in the past it was about the real estate. Activity-based work really put the value in the work that people did. And behavioral-based design really puts the value in the people who do the work. And so this is a real elevation of the value that's being placed on not just the environment, but the people who inhabit that environment. And so I made this little cartoon. I don't have to read it because it's too small for me to read off the screen. But this cartoon was really to demonstrate the point of how this interaction could take place. A designer will come to a client and say, what kind of work do your people do? How many engineers and sales team members do you have? What's the best adjacency? The client will respond very simply. Well, we basically have X number of engineers who just want to develop and Y number of sales team who just pace around and talk all day. Okay, cool. Let me come back to you and I'll get you a test fit and a blocking plan. Does this resonate with anybody? Yeah? A little bit of feedback? One person? Yeah, 2 people? We have a client as well. 3 people? Okay, great. I'm taking 3. Any fours? Do we have fours in the crowd? No fours? Yeah, we have 4. Okay. So a behavioral-based design approach is a little bit different. A behavioral-based design approach looks at it and says, hi, client, why does this group want to work here? What motivates them to work here? What behaviors drives performance amongst your team? And the response looks very different now. The response is something like, well, our engineers work hand in hand with technical sales to develop instant responses to our clients. Those 2 teams feeling ownership over each other's work is the key to the success of this team. Okay, great. As a designer, I go back and say, okay, great. Let me map out the behaviors that promote buy-in and co-creation so that we can design proper environments for that to occur in. So you can see that the framework really, it changes a lot of the questioning from the very beginning, and the input being different ultimately results in a slightly different output. And so I want to take you through a real example. This example is one that I'm not going to act as the designer on. I'm actually the client in this one. It's my own office, and I wanted to use the new New York office for our team as a way to crystallize the culture that we're trying to create. We were in the process of transformation, and guess what? We felt that through the right work environment, we can crystallize that culture. I mean, if we don't drink our own Kool-Aid, who is? And so, number one project goal for me was to crystallize that culture and to finally encapsulate that transformation that we needed. Second was to provide a space for vendors and clients to come and work with us and co-create with us. Third was to integrate physical, social, and digital, 3 parts of our business that we do, incorporate it into the work environment so that it's seamless. Number 4, attract more talent by being a place of well-being. Number 5, reduce attrition. Number 6, embody our point of view of what it is to have an office of the future. And number 7, to rethink the open office altogether. And so we went ahead and did that, and we moved to the Woolworth building. We're on the 24th floor. I invite all of you to come and attend and visit our office anytime you're in New York. And so what we did is we went back to the model. We looked at our business goals. Those were the goals I had. We went to the business goals, we looked at the behaviors, and then we looked at the design implementation strategies. So here are some strategies. Super quick. It's all eye candy, okay? Be super flexible. Being flexible is important. We were about to grow in size. Our teams and our studios were scaling. We went into that space with 1. We're now 3 studios in that space. It was really important that we could reconfigure as we want and people can move around as they need. So number 1, no tethering. Not a single every computer that we have has been optimized for the longest battery life. We have complete Wi-Fi enablement within the entire office. Not the kind of Wi-Fi that you get at a coffee shop. Our work is developing models. We develop super high, massive files, and we're working on that all day. And to be able to do that from your laptop through to a cloud computing center, that is a whole bunch of hurdles we need to overcome. No tethering. No cores in the floor, no power in the floor. Some people like it, it worked for us. And what we did with that is we were able to use battery power throughout the entire office to actually be able to bring power wherever we need and be able to work there for the full day. Some of these batteries last a week. So all of that thinking, it was technology, it was the behavior that we wanted to promote. We wanted to make sure that there was no modals in the way to achieve that end result. We had to really dig deep into technology. It's one thing to say throw everything on the cloud. When you're maneuvering massive files, it doesn't work that smooth. So we had to actually create a cache system inside of our office. We hung our data center on the wall. What was once a 100 square foot room is now just hung on the wall. And that center allows us to maneuver and do the great big projects that we do in a seamless manner. At the end, every user has really lightweight technology. They're using iPads, they're using laptops, but they're able to leverage and harness the power of that center. Another important aspect of our work was compression and expansion. We recognize that space actually has bio response to people. People have feedback and they internalize space differently. The compression and expansion actually creates opportunities for different types of behavior. And so that's what we did. We have totally open and totally closed spaces. We have areas where you can work and eat. It's a little bit more breathable. We have areas that you can really go into a cove and focus. The idea was to create an environment for both the extrovert and the introvert. And to allow that optioneering and movement to happen, we had to, again, go back to technology. You can't do the interior design that you want to do if you ignore the technology. It's an enabler. Number 3, element of surprise. We wanted the space to stay fresh all the time. We incorporated a rotating art program. And this art program was done in conjunction with a few local artists. They come and they hang their art. They put the price tag underneath. But it's like their own gallery. And every month and a half to 2 months, all the art is changed. And so it really gives a very fresh view and fresh look to the office in a very simple manner. Reconfigurability. This has been paramount for us. If we can reconfigure, then depending on the project, depending on the client engagement, they may be co-developing with us in our office. We can move and scrum into one corner. We can create studios. We can expand. I have a little video just to show the level of flexibility within this office. I sped it up 20 times. Our people don't actually work that fast. But everything from movable walls to lightweight furniture to all the furniture you'll see will have casters on at least 2 of the wheels. All the casters are lockable. One space then serves multiple functions. And on your tables, you actually have a little card. On the back of the card, you can see the space. You can see the entire footprint of the office. So it gives you an idea of how a space like this can really serve multiple functions. And again, if we had floor boxes in the floor, it would have gotten in our way. So that's one of the main reasons why we didn't want to have all that tethering. It would be impossible to do something like this with tethering. Strategy number 5, bringing clients into the fold of our work. We had to create an environment that clients felt like it was worthwhile to come to us. The longer we have them in our possession, the more we can talk to them. The more we talk to them, the more successful we are. So we had to do something about that. And we did. We created a myriad of environments that were inviting everything from cozy rooms that they can book to open areas, coffee shop style environments, phone booths, meeting rooms that they had the ability to book. And we have many clients that now come into our space and they'll spend the full day. They'll book one of our rooms, they'll go into a room, do their private stuff, come out, work with us again. And it's been an amazing experience. Wellbeing there's no shortage of efforts here. It's a Platinum Well certified project. We went after LEED Gold Standard and Reset. And so this project was quite difficult. It was in the Woolworth building. There's tons of old stuff in the Woolworth building to try to work with the Well Institute to kind of come up with something that would work. And it was a really great partnership that we had with them. But tons of different types of, and I'm not going to touch everything, but different types of strategies that really promoted well-being. Circadian lighting, which is really important for anyone who does screen work all day. To have the lighting actually move and the temperature of it change over the course of the day really affects a lot of our mood and our ability to focus. Air quality, quiet spaces, meeting room booking at any single moment from an app or whatever, and personal control. And so these were like some of the key strategies that we implemented. And finally, we brought in a digital workplace tool. We actually created our own workplace app, which is one of the parts of our business. We have the interior and architectural design. We have the technology design and app development. And we also have the social and cultural aspect of our strategy. And so in this context, we actually created our own Moser New York workplace experience tool, where you can come in and everything from welcome, understanding the events that are going on. We have so many vendors and suppliers and partners that want to book our time. We have a full board of understanding when they're going to be in the space. Are we going to attend? Feedback to them directly. We also incorporated a feedback system. We created a way to give feedback to an individual when asked. I can ask you for feedback, and then you can give it to me, and it's private. How did I do on my presentation today at WorkSpaces? You're like, hey man, your fly was down, or something like that. So it's a really great way to promote that type of cross-mentorship, but it was a concept that we developed out of the workspace. We saw that with the teaming and with the behaviors we want to promote, we need a tool. And guess what? The sofas aren't going to do it for us. We need a digital tool in this instance to promote that type of behavior. Finding people, looking at their CVs and understanding their backgrounds. We have a naval engineer in our midst, in our office. We had no idea that we had a naval engineer, and they're looking and specifying materials. So I want to share with you a few of the results, because in this case, as the business owner, I felt I wanted to look at it. I looked at it at 6 months, at 1 year, and at 18 months. And at the 18-month mark, we invited a third party, because we're like, we're going to be pretty favorable. We're going to try to skew it into our own direction. And so we got a third party to also do a blind analysis. And so these are some of the highlights of our project. So 88% of respondents said they feel a sense of community and belonging to the workplace, which is crazy high. And actually, our space is done really, really cheaply. We're architects. We don't have that much money like the rest of you guys. And so our space is done really on the dime. And to be able to achieve that with a very aggressive budget is because we focus the attention on things that really resonated with people. Another 92% of respondents said that their workplace reflects the culture of the organization. So that's where we're making the brand promise down into the team. 80% of respondents said that their workplace supports their well-being. They felt healthier. A lot of that had to do with the food choices, I'd be honest. We had cupcakes and a lot of like sugary stuff, and now we have fruit and really nice looking vegetable platters and things like that. But it was a positive in the long run. 80% of respondents said that their workplace supports them working with others effectively. And this is where it started to give meaning to the workplace, because what is the purpose of workplace if not a way to come together and work effectively together? We reduced our attrition to 6%, and our staff size doubled. So these are really, for me, as the person who wanted to use this as a tool, the whole office move was a tool for me. I felt very, very happy about this end result. It really crystallized a lot of the things that we were trying to do that were really in words, but now actually became reality and super tangible. So in some ways, it's like you delivered on a promise. In terms of some other metrics that were more qualitative, we asked some of these questions and then we polled. And I continue to work in my current job because I believe it has an important purpose. Strongly agree. Another interesting point is that I continue to work at my current job because without this job, I would be worried I couldn't reach my financial objectives. Would strongly disagree, which means that someone out there has offered them more money and they haven't left yet. So that's a really interesting takeaway as well. How does workplace play a role in that attrition issue? That's all I prepared for today. Thank you so much.